and I heard the most terrible, hurtful, ableist comment I've ever heard in my entire life said to me, and it was, "Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Jacqueline, and welcome to our little corner of YouTube where we speak very openly and honestly about learning disabilities, living life with learning disabilities, how to navigate a lot of challenges or successes, and everything in between. I myself have been diagnosed with dyslexia and dyscalculia, and today's topic is not really an exciting one, but one that other people might relate to that a lot of people do not speak about. So I'm going to be speaking about navigating a friendship breakup with learning disabilities, and it was kind of like the sole reason of why I had to cut that friend off, because I heard some ableist comments. So obviously not a fun topic to speak about, but it's really important, and I think it's very important for me, a part of my healing journey, to speak about it with you all here today. Let's speak about the backstory that you need to know about before we get into the heart of the story. But I was friends with this person that I'm speaking about for a little over a year. I was friends with this person at the very, very beginning of freshman year. Then we actually became roommates for sophomore year of college, and we did not make it a full year as roommates. I will be speaking about that, but it was a semester and a few weeks that I roomed with her. So I was rooming with someone who I considered my best friend. Yes, I've heard those horror stories, and yes, unfortunately, I'm a part of that club. I never wanted to be a part of that club of having a best friend that failed as a roommate, or a roommate that failed as a best friend, whatever, vice versa, all those things. The real reason of why I want to sit down and film this video is because I heard a lot of hurtful and negative and honestly ableist comments from someone I considered my best friend, and how you process that and deal with that is not anything I've read articles about, I've seen videos about, or what have you. There's no map or guideline of how you deal with a situation like that. This is just my own personal story, of course. If you relate to it, I'm really sorry, and I hope you don't, but now we have maybe some shared connection that I was missing for a while. So that's really why I am wanting to speak about this today. My friend slash roommate and I we were okay during first semester. We had a few bumps in the road, but second semester is when everything blew up, and I just realized there were some things I needed to set boundaries for or have more open discussions of things that I liked about our situation, like rooming and friendship situation, and things I wished could change, and here are like potential solutions. So I'm not going to get into like why we had these personal discussions, because that's not what this story is about. The story is about the comments that I heard during these really tough conversations that I had with her, and ultimately why I had to end the friendship on my end. Before I get into the first hurtful comment that I want to address in this video, I have to tell you that driving with learning disabilities, more specifically in my case, dyslexia and dyscalculia, which is a math learning disability, is really unbelievably challenging for me to do. I'm talking about the directionality aspects of it all. I'm talking about the anticipation of like other cars on the road and how I'm gonna react to other cars on the road, just remembering the rules of the road. Learning new routes, like unfamiliar places, is really challenging because sometimes I don't even comprehend the GPS accurately. So therefore, freshman year, no one can have cars on campus. If you have a waiver to get a car on campus, then that's great. My roommate did happen to get a waiver to have a car on campus, so I have had that option of transportation since freshman year of like having her drive me off campus. But sophomore year, you can have a car on campus at my college, and I did not have a car on campus the entire year just because driving is so challenging for a number of reasons. So learning new places around my college campus, I didn't feel like I was ready as a driver to do that and to learn that. Next year, as a junior in college, I will have my car on campus, which I'm really excited about, but that's just like a little setup to this comment. The comment I heard is that I was an inconvenience for not having my car on campus. And that was obviously so unbelievably rude and disrespectful, but also really ableist, because I was really open and honest with this friend that driving is such a huge challenge for me. For a while, when I did go off campus, she was always grateful that I was like going the same place as her. I would offer gas money. Sometimes she wanted it, sometimes she didn't. I would offer to pay for meals. I would do anything to make it a little bit more balanced of she's driving me and I recognize that. What can I do to step up as a friend and just like repay her in some sense? And so going from that setting of like it was really nice being in the car with her, I didn't realize that there was an underlying issue happening, to, months later, apparently that she had these pent up feelings that I was an inconvenience for not having my car on campus and always having to rely on her to get off campus. It was so hurtful to hear that, because obviously, as I just said, I was open about my struggles, but I can't change the fact that driving is hard. I can't change the fact that I have learning disabilities that impact that type of learning environment, and that I just wasn't comfortable to have my own car on campus. So that was a struggle, and that was one of the things that I noted in my brain when we had these difficult conversations and words were said, that I didn't like that at all. I would have never said that to anyone. And when this person tried to backstep and say, oh, like, I didn't mean to call you an inconvenience, this is what I meant, it still was something I couldn't get over, because she did say that word, inconvenience, and I couldn't move past it. I tried to move past it, but I really couldn't. Just to do a mini little plug, I have a playlist on YouTube called How to Drive with Learning Disabilities. If you're interested in learning more, it's all a mini series that I've done, Jacqueline's Driving Diaries, how I document to learn to drive differently than others. It's all on this YouTube playlist that you can click on right now. And I have a few other YouTube videos as well that I've talked about how challenging driving is for me, if you want more information on that aspect. The next thing I have to tell you is that so far in college, I've had to drop 2 classes because they were very inaccessible for me to be in them. I was not getting the proper support, or I knew that I was not going to get the proper support with having my dyslexia and dyscalculia. There are some things that I now am attuned to, of if I'm in this type of learning environment, it just won't work for me, it won't click, there's going to be some clashing, and I don't want to deal with that. So I told my friend during one of our tense moments, this very vulnerable aspect. I knew that it was kind of walking on eggshells. It was a little bit challenging to speak to her about such an important aspect that I was considering of dropping a class, but I felt comfortable enough to say it to her because she's seen me in the past of our friendship when I had to drop a different class, and that was really hard. So I thought, let me tell her about needing to drop another class. So that's what I did. It must have been like during dinner, I said, here's something that I'm going through right now. I think that I'm going to have to drop a class because it very much is an inaccessible environment for me. This class is making me feel very severely dyslexic. I don't like it, and I think I want to find an alternative class. And to further off that point of making me feel dyslexic, there was just a lot of very much lengthy reading assignments every single day, probably 20 plus pages, and then quizzes on those reading assignments. And from day one, receiving a reading assignment, I couldn't even comprehend it. It looked like jargon on the page. I was so confused and so lost right off the bat. So I knew if I don't even understand day one reading, I cannot make it 15 weeks in this course. I will be absolutely confused. And honestly, this was a general education course, so I didn't need to stay in this class. I could have found a different class, and I did. So when I told her that I needed to drop this class because it's just quote-unquote not my learning style, and it wasn't, and I gave her the explanation of how it impacted my dyslexia already, she said to me, well, sometimes I think it's best to stay in a class that's not your learning style. It was not supportive at all, and again, that was another note in my brain of, okay, well, I don't really want to open up about these conversations if you're just not going to be supportive and understand and try to ask questions instead of jumping to the conclusion of you should stay in it type of thing. So later on, I kind of brought up this discussion of why did you say this comment? It honestly did bother me. And she said, well, I was trying to prepare you for the real world because in the real world, you won't get the option to do that. Meaning you won't get the option to drop a class. All of that together was just so unsupportive. And I was thinking to myself, if I needed to vent to my best friend, a response like that is not anything my best friend would tell me. I had to set up a boundary in place after hearing those comments and how they were very unsupportive. And I had to set up a boundary in place saying that, I'm not comfortable speaking about my learning disabilities anymore to you. I just feel like you don't understand my learning disabilities. And I heard the most terrible, hurtful, ableist comment I've ever heard in my entire life said to me, And it was, "You're right, Jacqueline, I don't understand your learning disabilities, but sometimes I really think that you blame your learning disabilities as an excuse for your hardships." Let that sink in. I was absolutely gobsmacked. I didn't even have a response to her back. I actually just repeated the phrase, "So what you're telling me is that you think that I blame my learning disabilities as an excuse for my hardships?" And she said, "Yes." And she's like, "This is what I think now. Like, I can change my opinion in the future, but this is just my thoughts and feelings right now." And then later on in like a different conversation, she brought up that she thought my whole entire personality was about being an advocate and also just my neurodiversity, and I just spoke about that too much to her. So actually she was kind of grateful that I wasn't going to be speaking about my learning disabilities anymore in that sense to her. Again, this conversation was unbelievable to me. I never thought that that person specifically was ever going to say words like that, and that was the tipping point of knowing that I can't be friends with someone like that. I don't want someone in my corner who's supposed to be a cheerleader always dragging me down. Like, that is so rude and so ableist. My brain is different. It works differently. In fact, it's actually wired differently than others. I can't change that. I don't want to change that. And I love being an advocate. I love needing to say, like, this is hard for me because of this. I do really well vocalizing those difficulties and what I want moving forward. And just hearing that about thinking that I blame my learning disabilities as an excuse, like, no, it's not blaming, it's actually just giving an explanation. That's really what it is. I'm telling you, here's the explanation of why I have to drop the class. Here's the explanation of why driving is so hard. There's no excuses there. And that's just what I want you to also understand too. Explanation and excuses are vastly different. Hearing something like that also was jarring for a multitude of reasons, but then hearing something like that, I started to internalize those comments for a little bit of time, thinking, is there something wrong with me? Should I be ashamed? Do I need to change? Is what she's saying true? I could not stop spiraling for days, honestly weeks, about these really hard things that she told me, to the point where I needed to get crisis counseling. I had to go to a counselor ASAP. That was the best decision that I've ever made. Like, really, I'm a huge supporter of getting a counselor if you have the ability and means to do so. I'm bringing up my therapist for a reason. I told her that actually I wasn't supposed to live with my roommate for sophomore year. I was supposed to live in a single, and she was supposed to have a different roommate. Things happened that I don't need to discuss here online, but we ended up being roommates. So we knew that we were going to be like best friends as roommates, and hopefully we would figure it out and it would work. It didn't. But I told her, well, maybe this would have never happened if we were just in separate rooms to begin with. And she said something so brilliant that I am grateful to have heard, and I want to pass along this information to you. She said, "Jacqueline, if you were in separate situations, do you think her morals and values would be different? Like, do you think how she thinks about learning disabilities would be different if you had that space or not?" She said something along the lines of that. And I looked at her and I said, I don't think that her morals and values would have changed. No, I don't. Whether I'm close with her in an actual room or in separate rooms, she holds certain beliefs that I just don't hold certain beliefs as that. And I can't click with someone who has those beliefs. So that was eye-opening to me because I thought there was a solution of if this were different, then this would have happened. But you can't think like that. The truth of the matter is she held those thoughts and opinions, and I don't agree with those thoughts and opinions. So it comes to the decision where I've heard these comments and I am spiraling. I get a counselor. What next? I had to think for weeks about, do I want to stay in a friendship with this person, and do I want to stay roommates with this person or not? And ultimately, I just thought that my best friend and someone who I want in my corner would never say these things. I don't want someone in my life dragging me down. I don't want the negativity to consume me. I felt really disconnected from who I am as a person when I was in that environment, and I didn't like it. And I know I'm not a saint. I definitely said some hurtful things too. But hearing these comments specifically, I knew I didn't want someone in my life who thought those things. So I had to think about my worth. Is this situation worth my time and my energy and my effort to repair it, or is it not? It wasn't. It was just hard for so long until I had this epiphany of it's gonna be a hard decision to make, but the rewards that are gonna come out of it, of me feeling like a way better version of myself, are probably gonna excel my expectations. And they did. Yes, the end of the story is I did in fact move out, and the rest of my semester was amazing. I was so happy. I had great roommates. I had a single room to myself because in my situation with her, I was in a double room, so there was no escaping each other when we got into these clashes. It was challenging. To conclude, know what you want in a friendship, know your worth. You don't have to stick in a friendship because you think you should or anything like that. You are an amazing, incredible person. If someone is dragging you down, don't let them. If you have the ability and the capability to walk away, to leave, to change your environment, please do. It will be so hard for a really long time. This conversation I'm having with you right now is still hard. Making this script to tell you this story today, I literally cried tears. I'm not over it. And I think it's okay that I can't move on quite yet, but this is part of my moving on journey. Thank you once more. This was very healing for me, and I hope to see you on the next video.